first thing is a 13-lettered, very complex sentence. So I don't want to bore you with it. I was very enthusiastic of coming to speak after Dasha because our topics kind of intertwine. She spoke about how to use music to bounce back from problematic situations. And my topic is how to prevent those problematic situations from occurring in the first place.
Yeah, support.
And this is how women's liberation makes men better husbands.
Ooh.
Now, my thesis is that historically there's always been social shifts, and sometimes this has caused a lot of problems. And when we do not know how to manage those problems, we have crisis instead of growth. But we could manage pressure in such a way that it creates growth instead of crisis. Are we on the same page?
Mm-hmm.
And now, what we should see from everything that has happened with the women's liberation movement, modern feminism, is not per se the hatred of women towards men, but rather the evolution of more compassionate men who should learn to love women the way they want to be loved. Now I want to take us down memory lane with the story of Charles I. Charles I was King of England. Well, inherited the title from his father of Northern Ireland. His father was James I, anyway. I think King of France, King of Ireland. Many things. Very glorious guy. And of course, he felt, as all kings did at that time, that he had the divine right to rule. And because of that divine right to rule, he unfortunately acted like a tyrant. When Oliver Cromwell defeated His Majesty's army, His Majesty was beheaded. And that ushered in the phase of Republican England, with Oliver Cromwell being the Lord Protector. Now this is why the story is important. The English people decided to restore the monarchy after Cromwell died. And when they restored the monarchy, Charles II was the first person to truly understand what it meant to be a constitutional monarch, because he had the very recent lesson of his father, understanding that if he went the way of his father, those who killed his father, although their ringleaders had been beheaded, would still rise again and behead him the same way they beheaded his father. Now, what does that teach us? It teaches us that revolution can refine leadership. There's a silver lining in every dark cloud. That's very true. But we need to see that also in the context of how we relate with women who are dissatisfied with the way we've been relating with them previously. Now, in my culture, I come from a background where women used to kneel to serve their husbands and to serve their husbands' food. And somewhere in West Africa, not in my culture per se, some of those women have to stay until the husband finishes his food before they'll stand up. And, looking back at that, somebody will feel that, we should go back to the days where traditional families were the in thing and women respected their husbands. But it made us reflect, were women really respecting their husbands? Or were they just trying to live within the context that they found themselves unable to escape? And what is the test of someone who truly loves you? Is it you're building a wall and preventing the person from walking out? Or having all the walls broken down and testing whether that person will stay with you or not because the person truly values you? And that is what we have come to see modern marriages as. Modern marriages should be institutions where walls are broken down, and we can truly ask our partners whether they would want to stay with us or whether they would want to escape. Now, women demand dignity, partnership, and voice, which is a much better result than what we unfortunately had been giving them in the past. And men must be challenged to become more compassionate leaders. Compassion doesn't mean that we are weak. Compassion means that we channel our strengths the right way. It is not a call for men to be sissies. Because at every woman's core, she also wants a man who can stand up to a woman. But she doesn't want the man who can channel that strength towards hitting her. I think we all agreed on this point. So what is the positive disruption that men should look out for with the rise of modern feminism? It should be that rather than fighting the liberation movement, we should see it as a call to repent of our overly exaggerated ego. We should see a replacement of coercion with cooperation. A funny story the woman told me was that she was with her husband in a car back in Nigeria, and suddenly the brakes stopped working. And he was screaming that he's losing control. And of course, he was panicking. And she felt that she had more situational awareness. And she stretched her hand and steadied the steering, just so that they would maintain the accurate speed. Of course, you should know if you're a good driver that if such an emergency occurs, you should just steady the car so you don't run into something else. And she was trying to steady the steering. And the man found time, after recovering from such a deadly experience, to scold her for interfering with his control of the vehicle. And I'm saying this very politely. I don't want to say what he actually said. So the problem is that he has never understood that beyond control there should be cooperation. Now, love will become intentional and not inherited. But there is also a problem of not learning from history, and that's what happened in France. When Emperor Napoleon the Great lost his empire and was exiled, the European powers decided to restore the monarchy. And the new King Louis, unfortunately, didn't learn from his predecessor, Louis XVI, who was beheaded along with his wife. Louis didn't reduce the taxes. Louis didn't check the powers of the nobles or the third estate, which was the church. And sure enough, the people erupted in revolution again. So history teaches us that the way we handle problems quite literally affects whether those problems will reoccur or whether they'll be permanently solved. The dissatisfaction of women with the way relationships have been going throughout the last millennium that men have been in charge shows that we should, in our day, take charge and decide not to repeat the mistakes our fathers made, but to be better men. Again, families that resist equality repeat the lessons from failed monarchies. But again, here is what we should do as better husbands. We should listen more, we should adapt, and we should grow alongside our empowered partners. Not afraid that they will outshine us, but I think, how should I say, more bold, that no matter how successful they become, because of how genuinely good we have been, and how genuinely we have protected ourselves, they could not turn against us even if they wanted to. My closing thought is that evolution carries a gift. That's the same with the modern evolution. And women's liberation is teaching men how to love better. I hope you agree.
Yeah, we definitely do. Thank you. That was